I left the coast of Malabar at the waning of the monsoon, my feet bound for the inner lands, those red, sun drenched hills the local folk call the rocky spine of Bharat. News had reached us of a powerful new kingdom rising inland. Merchants whispered of its emerald markets and gold lined bazaars. Scholars of a court where Sanskrit learning flourished under the royal patronage, and pilgrims spoke of its temples, mighty, teeming with devotion. But it was the rumors of Vijaynagar, the city of victory, that drew me. My name is Brahmajyoti, son of a Jain merchant from Punani, born in the year when Muhammad bin Tughlaq marched through the Dakhan like a storm, shaking the ancient pillars of the Deccan kingdoms. My journey began in 1348, 2 years after the new empire declared its defiance to the Sultan of Delhi. At 28, with a scroll satchel on my back and a coconut shell for a bowl, I took to the ancient roads. What I sought, I did not know. The road through the ghats was treacherous. Stone paths laced with thorns, tiger tracks, fresh joined a caravan of cotton traders from Dharwad. They spoke in Kannada and by the fire at night told me of the fall of Kampili, of the valor of the last Raja who burned himself alive when the Sultan's men scaled his walls, and of the two brothers, Harihar and Bukka, who had returned from Delhi with fire in their eyes. They said the new city they were building on the southern banks of the Tungabhadra was protected not only by walls of stone but by gods themselves. When we reached Anegundi on the northern bank of the river, I saw my own eyes the deep gorge cut by the Tungabhadra were waters rapid and full of mist. Temples rose like flame tips from black granite hills. This was once the seat of an ancient chiefdom, now reduced to a fortress town. Watching the southern hills, there the new empire stirred. One old Brahmin told me, there is a lion among us now. Vijayanagar shall be our Ayodhya. I crossed into the city by one of its many granite gateways, each guarded by archers in red turbans and cuirasses of fish scale armor. The heat shimmered on the whitewashed walls, and the scent of jasmine and sandalwood drifted in the air. The city stretched beyond what the eye could see. Broad streets, shaded by banyan trees, bustled with carts of spices and silk. Portuguese chroniclers would later say there were jewels in the gutters. I saw there was a rhythm of drums, prayers, trade, and purpose. At the center of the city stood the palace complex, ringed by seven walls, as if mirroring the seven layers of Mount Meru. Towering coprums, pyramidal temple gates were adorned with gods in divine embrace. I heard that Krishna Dev Rai had not yet been born, but the foundation he would one day glorify were being laid stone by stone. I found lodging near the bazaar of Vitthalaswamy, where sculptors, masons, and bronze castlers labored day and night. One evening, I sat by the chariot shaped temple and watched dancers rehearse Mahashivratri festival steps. Their movements were fluid like poetry. By chance or grace, I was invited to the court, held in the house of victory. Bukkarai I, now aged, sat on the lion carved throne, flanked by ministers and learned men. Beside him stood Vidyaranya Swami, the sage of Sringeri, who was said to have guided the two brothers in founding the empire. There were emissaries from Warangal, Madurai, and even far off Lanka. A Persian visitor recited Rumi's verses, and in return, a Kannada poet sang of the Hoysala kings. I saw debates held between Shaivites and Vaishnavites, with Jain monks weighing in from the margins. Bukka Rai spoke little, but his eyes held fire. The Yavans, the Turks, he said once, broke our temples, but they could not break our dharma. From this land the sun shall rise again for entire Bharat. I stayed on for a year, recording the architecture, ritual, and lore. I wrote of the Vitthal temple, where stone pillars sang when struck, and of the Narsingha statue, carved from a single boulder, his eyes feral, his nails soaked in myth. The irrigation tanks built by the kings turned arid lands fertile. Canal systems channeled Tungabhadra's water like veins across the plateau. Traders from Persia and Africa spoke of Vijaynagar as a place richer than Cairo, the capital of Egypt. One twilight, I stood upon the Malyavanta hill and watched as the city glowed under the getting sun, her stones burning gold, smoke hurled from the temple lamps. The river gurgled with prayer. Peacocks danced. In 1350, the Sultan of Delhi fell ill, his empire crumbling. But Vijayanagar thrived because it was built on the pillars of growth and dharma. I travelled briefly south to Madurai, where the Sultanate ruled with cruelty once. I saw temples desecrated and Sanskrit texts burned, the places that were ravaged by sultans of the Turks. But when I returned to Vijayanagar, the air felt completely different. More forts had been built, more soldiers trained. I heard the cry, Kampili is avenged. A new dynasty was rising, not merely to survive, but to protect, to create. From Tamil Nadu to Goa, poets and warriors now turned toward Vijayanagar as a heaven. I left the city with tears. As I passed under the Gopuram once more, I felt I had lived in a moment lit by eternity. God bless Bukkarai and Harihar Rai and other kings of Vijayanagar, for they preserved dharma, temples, scholars, Brahmins, cows, and every sentient being that deserved honor, respect, and safety.